Welcome, I'm Sianna, and today we're going to go into a story about how Shiva got his blue throat and Lakshmi was born in the great ocean. So once upon a time, there was this grumpy sage. He's a very smart and wise sage, but he tends to be a little grumpy too, and a bit of a trickster. And his name is Durvaras. And Durvaras, on this one particular day, is incredibly happy. And the celestial nymphs in the skies, they look down and they go, do you see that? That normally our grumpy sage is actually happy today. It must be a special day. So they come out of the skies and they place a garland of never fading and deeply fragrant flowers upon his neck. And Durvaras is very, very happy. And he says to himself, on this day, I'm going to give this gift to the very next person that I see. Well, it just so happens that the next person that comes across the path is Lord Indra himself. Now, Lord Indra is the commander-in-chief. So Indra comes along on his great white elephant, and Durvaras sees him and he says, well, he's the next person, gives him the garland, and Indra takes the garland, totally dismisses it, just throws the garland away into the air, and the trunk of his elephant catches the garland, and because it's so intoxicating and so fragrant, the elephant goes wild, and then the garland goes flying off again, down on the ground, and the elephant, by mistake, stomps onto the garland. Now, Durvaras just so happens to be watching all of this, and the once incredibly happy mood he was having has become the grumpiest that he's ever been. And he looks to Indra and he says, Indra, I curse you now because you didn't see the gift that I gave you. And so from this point forward, you and all of your gods and goddesses will start to lose their powers one by one. And Indra says, yeah, whatever. And then sure enough, one by one, the gods and goddesses start to lose their powers. Surya, the sun, becomes completely pale and loses all of his brightness. Agni, the fire god, becomes shivering cold as if he's made of icicles. Even Yama, the lord of death, is rendered entirely helpless. And then the gods and goddesses, they become very concerned and they have a little conference with each other and they go to Lord Brahma and they say, Brahma, what do we do? And Brahma says, I don't know. Go to Vishnu. He'll tell you what to do. And so they go to Vishnu and Vishnu says, don't worry. Here's what you need to do. You need to gather all parts of yourselves, all the gods and goddesses, and all the demons too. Gather all the parts of yourself together and go to the four corners of the world. And in the four corners of the world, you will gather the sacred herbs. And from those four corners, bring the herbs together to this ocean of milk. Cast the herbs into the ocean of milk, and then you're going to begin churning the ocean of milk. Now, the ocean of milk is like the ocean of the heart, and the churning is the sadhana, the practices of yoga itself. And so the gods, goddesses, demons, all these parts of ourselves come to the practices, and we start churning in the great ocean of the heart. Now, Vishnu says after some time of this great churning, what will arise is the amrita, the ambrosia, the healing elixir that will give you back all your powers. In one sip of this, and you will be restored. So they're practicing for the immortality, so to speak. But as they're practicing, some strange things start to happen. And the first of these is that a very noxious poison comes forth, and it's the hala hala. And this poison is so noxious that even if you think about it, you just pass out and die right away. So they go, now what do we do? You didn't tell us that in our practices, these poisons were going to come out, these parts of ourselves that we didn't want to see at all. Why didn't you tell us about this? He says, don't worry, the Lord of Yoga is coming. And so Shiva arrives, and Shiva takes the poison out of the ocean and he drinks it. And then he holds it at the base of his throat. And the poison there, through the power of mantra itself, is transformed and transmutated into an iridescent, beautiful cobalt blue. And this is how Shiva gets his blue throat and he's Lord Nilakanta, the blue-throated one. And so now the gods, goddesses, and demons keep churning in this ocean of milk, and all sorts of gifts arise. There's the great wish-fulfilling tree, and the moon itself rises out of the ocean. But then out of the depths of the ocean arises this most lustrous form of the goddess. Her name is Lakshmi, and she's seated on a perfect lotus flower, and she's bedecked in the garland of never-fading, always fragrant flowers. And as they keep churning, the ambrosia arises. The demons, of course, grab the ambrosia first, and they say, it's mine. And then Vishnu says, don't worry. He transforms himself into a very sexy goddess, goes to the demons and says, could I have a little taste of that? And they hand it over to her. And then Vishnu, as the woman, then gives it back to the gods and goddesses. And they take a sip, and all their powers are restored. And it's a happy day for everyone. Namaste.